I'm Georgia Basing, and this is the Flow of Life community. And I'm here with a beautiful woman. Do you want me to call you Jules or Julie?
Jules.
Jules.
Yeah.
And we've come here today just to have a conversation. And I know I've only read part of your book, but I am so impressed that actually you've written a book and got it out there.
Yep.
Because so many of us go, oh, I've got a book in me. I know I've got a book in me. But we never do it. So that's the most inspirational thing, to just go, I know this wants to come in the world.
Yep.
Tell me about your process. Tell me what happened to
yeah,
get
well,
it.
believe it or not, I never ever thought I would write a book. It wasn't one of those things that was like a burning desire for me. But I'd always been a journaler. I always loved just journaling my thoughts and sort of helping myself to process stuff. I guess in my journals, I felt I was free to really be myself. It was like the blank page sort of give you permission to test out your own thoughts and ideas without someone judging or criticizing you. And I suppose a part of my backstory is growing up in Northern Ireland during the height of the Troubles. And growing up during that period of time, you learnt to be the good girl, to fit in, to be quiet, to toe the line, to sort of stand in the shadows. So when it came to, I'd been journaling, as I said, for many years. And then during that first initial lockdown, I wasn't able to work. I'm a physiotherapist and I wasn't able to work, obviously. So I used to go up to a little garden shed that we have in the back corner of our house. And I used to bring up a big pot of green tea and go up and do a little bit of reading, do a little bit of journaling, a little bit of writing started to come. And I don't know, but I just had this real feeling that there was potentially something on those pages from my old journals and from my current journals that could help somebody if they were able to read it. So I sort of committed to write, even if it was never seen or heard. I sort of made that conscious decision that I was going to write my story. So, and then literally like the next day, I get this email from a really good friend in America who was starting to run a 10-month online course called Conscious Creativity. And she's an artist. So, and I knew that the other ladies that were signing up for that program were mostly artists as well. And I messaged her and I said, Deb, would this work for me? I really feel inspired to write my story, to write a book. And she said, oh, absolutely. You know, it's about being conscious in your creativity. It doesn't have to be art. So yeah, I signed up for the 10-month program, and that was fantastic because it really kept me accountable. There was a group of like 7 of us doing stuff together and doing one-to-ones with Deb. So yeah, it really kept you accountable, kept you on target. She was able to share friends of hers who were authors. So, and they very kindly just chatted with me on Zoom or whatever and sort of pointed me in the right direction. And yeah, like I have absolutely no training in writing. In fact, in school, I was often told I was dyslexic. And I was never assessed or anything, but yeah, I never ever imagined that I would write a book, but it just came out of me.
Isn't it fascinating that, you know, one day you just think, oh yeah, this is going to happen. And then exactly the right thing,
Yeah,
the next day comes in.
yeah.
But this creative force that we're part of knows what to send us at exactly the right moment.
Yeah. So yeah, I did really enjoy the process, like it was difficult at the start because you just don't know where to start. But I just started like reading back through my journals and getting common themes together, and then sort of put it into chapters, and it really occupied most of that sort of 8 months that I wasn't able to work. So it was perfect timing.
I was about to say, beautiful timing. I mean, I know from my point of view, I was doing Supercoach. I started in the January, and when we went into the lockdowns in the March, I then had all my beautiful training and all my beautiful coaching time and all of this in a time when people had space. And I had space. So it was the most beautiful timing that if it hadn't been then, and I'm not saying it wouldn't be happened because it would have been perfect, but it was a time then people started to have the time to look inside. That if we were trying to put it in place, so I know you're interested in writing another book, but you're understanding, only because I know you said on call the other day that, you would have written your book differently now.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Why would it be different now? What do you see so differently?
Well, obviously, my husband is a coach, and Peter, and he came across the understanding called the 3 principles, probably about, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years ago. And he used to try to talk to me about it, and it just like totally went over my head. I just couldn't really get it. Didn't see what was so important about it. But then he handed me Hannah Studley's book called Painless. And I read it. It's fiction, but it really brings an understanding to the 3 principles and how they can help with chronic pain. And as I work as a physio, like so many of my patients are chronic pain sufferers, things like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, whole body sort of pain. So yeah, that book really inspired me, and I started reading everything I could get my hands on, Sydney Banks's books, and listening to Dr. Pettit, and just anything. And I just loved it because it just made so much sense. I know that so many of my patients and myself from time to time get caught up in our anxious thinking, and it just perpetuates that pain cycle. When we think pain is the problem, we get stuck in that cycle, stuck in fight or flight, and it just really perpetuates the pain. So and the most modern sort of pain neuroscience is also saying that our thoughts and our thinking and anxious thinking, fearful thinking really do increase your pain. So I would love to do a lot of research around that and write a book that talks about chronic pain and the power that the understanding of the 3 principles can have on that.
And does this, I know when I kind of have something that wants to come into creation, you can you feel it cooking. This has got the same feel for you.
Definitely. Like I'm so excited because I would love to, my first step would be to organize a class for some of my patients that really struggle with persistent pain, and educate them on the neuroscience in a simple way and on the three principles, and do like pain score sheets before and record their symptoms at the end, just to really see if I can have an impact on people's lives with regard to their pain. But yeah, obviously that'll take a bit of planning and putting together, but I'm excited every time I think about it, and then I could possibly incorporate those stories in the book, if people get a good relief and good movement forward in their understanding.
Well, it's interesting because there's a lady, maybe you saw her at the conference, who is into three principles research.
Yes.
So actually maybe that would really work well together.
Yeah. I when I heard her speak, she was amazing. Like, she was so inspiring. And I do remember thinking, goodness, I must remember her name, but I can't, but I'll be able to find it. Yeah, if I go back.
I have her email, so I'll send it.
All right. Brilliant. Yeah.
There's always a reason for every conversation, isn't there?
Yes, indeed.
So as you see with your patients, their physical experience exasperated or not by their mental experience, do you listen more and more to your intuition as you work with people? Because I was thinking this morning, a really interesting question would be, do you see a difference between this creative force and intuition?
Probably not. I think they're sort of one and the same. And I know, like, my background again is that I trained as a physiotherapist about 35 years ago, worked in the NHS, I worked in private practice, and then I developed I had post-viral fatigue after viral meningitis. And about 6 years ago, I was at the point where I was really struggling to work. I was running a busy clinic and I was really struggling to get through each day physically, just because I had then been diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And I wanted to find, I love my work. I love working with patients, and I wanted to find a treatment method that would be a bit more gentle on my body so that I could keep working.
Yeah.
So I discovered myofascial release and went to America to do the training, and it was life-changing for me because it takes you out of that very linear way of working, which I had done as a physio for years. You just fix it and you force the system. Whereas myofascial release is much more about intuitively feeling what's going on in someone's body, where the restrictions are in the fascia, and really getting the patient to come out of their head, away from their thoughts and their thinking, and to really feel into their body as well during the treatment. So it's very different, because with a nice massage or another physio treatment, the patient just lies there and does nothing, thinks about what they're making for tea. Yeah. So it's very different. It's really taken the patient on an investigative journey deep inside their own body. And yeah, I can't remember if that answers your question, but
well,
intuition. Yeah.
So actually, what you just said to me is you've left the linear, learned stuff behind, and seen a whole different outcome with intuitive working, with just what comes to you to do to work with.
Yeah.
And do you see that play out in life generally?
Yeah, I think I do sort of just take a step back sometimes when I'm trying to make a decision or a choice or and whereas before I would have rushed into the first thing that came into my head. But now I like to just take a step back and just be present, be quiet, and just see what comes.
Then that's fascinating from the point of view, what you've seen as a practice as a therapist has affected, from the sounds of it, the whole of life.
Definitely. Like after I went to America to do the first 3 courses, I feel like I came back a different person, not only just physically, but because all my symptoms went after just practicing on other therapists and then practicing on me as they're learning the skills. So yeah, it was pretty life-changing.
Well, it's interesting because I've seen very much the same sort of thing with a close family member, not through MFR, but we did something called Psych K. I'm a kinesiologist by training, and prior to that, hands-on healing. And a family member who we did a 2-day course with something called Psych K, which is about changing beliefs. And not that I say that that's a thing that you can do beyond actually seeing through thinking, is how I now look at it. But what it made this person do was look at where they were looking at in life. And in just seeing actually where you look gives you the opportunity to have a wider scope and to give space and let wisdom do its thing of, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
So even though it was a different thing to what your experience was, it's about the same intuitive, open, energetic space, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that just beautiful?
Yeah. Yeah, like I think I discovered through MFR treatment personally that in many ways, through different traumas that happened to me growing up, with bombs and stuff like that, that I had sort of almost left my body.
How fascinating. Yes, yeah.
So I think it was in an attempt to numb the pain. So I actually chose to ignore my body until it was screaming for my attention. You know, I'd had lots of different illnesses and symptoms, and I just kept totally ignoring them. But I think my journey of healing was a real journey of embodiment for me, and coming home to my body.
I definitely know someone who I'm going to share the video with of this conversation. And I know we had, I did a weekend away, as you know, and came back because having spent so much time in the last few years, having gone from body and kinesiology and looking at it that way, to then be deeply immersed in mind, still the same energy, but understanding the nature of thought and creation. going away and being immersed back in body stuff with TRE, trauma release. Do you know that?
Right. Yeah.
And Kundalini yoga and sound bath and all of these beautiful energetic tools of the body, and really remembering that this travels the journey with this.
Mm-hmm.
And we forget that this holds its own memory to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So do you find when you work with people that as you release fascia, something will often come up for them to see, to deal with, to cleanse and let go of?
It's more about the emotion that comes up. You don't actually have to work it out.
Yeah.
We just encourage them to let it out, to let it go, that your body's trying to get rid of it for a reason, and you don't have to work it out. Like, you don't have to think back and think, oh, is that to do with the time that my dad was really cross with me? Or, you don't have to work it out. You just let it out. But there is a thing called tissue memory, where memories are stored in the tissues of our body. And there's like scientific cases of, like, for example, someone who's had a heart transplant. There's a really famous case of a young child. I can't remember the specific ages, but I think it was, say, a 9-year-old received the heart of a 7-year-old, and the 7-year-old had been brutally murdered and stabbed. And obviously the 9-year-olds and the family weren't told anything about that story. But a few months later, the 9-year-old started having really vivid dreams of exactly what happened to the 7-year-old. So like, the body is an amazing thing, amazing creation, and it's way beyond our understanding. But I know that sometimes when I've received MFR, or my patients have received it, they might just suddenly have a wave of emotion. It might be sorrow, it might be laughter, it might be anger, and you can see it, rising to the surface. And you just really encourage them to just let it go, because once you get rid of that stuff, it creates more space in your body for joy and peace and creativity and growth and healing.
So do you notice, or have you noticed, that you, after you've seen someone, that you can still feel their energetic resonance with you?
I haven't been overly aware of that, because the teacher, John Barnes, that taught me myofascial release, he wouldn't put a lot of credence on that. Like, obviously you can feel a different energy and stuff beneath your hands when you're working through the different layers of fascia. You can feel restrictions, you can feel heat, and sometimes you can feel like a tiny vibrations, like a resonance of the tissues. My 2 dogs are like barking like crazy.
I can't hear them.
You can't hear them.
I can't hear them.
But yeah, so yeah, when I'm with them, yes. And very occasionally, yes, if I've had a patient that is so caught up in their story, so negative, and just can't see past that. It is draining. I definitely find it very draining. But I guess I've tried to just sort of shake that off after that particular patient. So yeah, I guess you would feel, in extreme cases, I would be aware of it. Yeah.
Because I know therapists other than who aren't part of a 3 principles understanding. Not that, all three priests are telling you is how life works. But it's really interesting from the point of view that so many will put, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, it's just really interesting, or I find it interesting, you know, visualizing you're in an energy sphere so that your patient's energy can't come with you, putting stones underneath and all sorts of stuff that is so beautifully creatively made up that I guess enhances the idea of us of separation, actually enhances the idea that there is good and bad energy. But what would you see about actually there being good or bad energy?
I think I have been aware of it, definitely. But I tend to concentrate more, as you say, that sort of creates separation. I tend to concentrate more on my hands trying to reach a resonance with their body. So when you do each a very gentle, sustained release through the body, you're working through multiple layers of fascia. And the fascia is continuous throughout the entire body. So it's a bit like a spider's web. If you put your finger into the web and start to move it, it doesn't move just where your finger is, it moves the whole web. So no matter where you're working on the body, you're having an impact on the whole system. And at the start, when you put your hands on their body, you are just connecting and you just let your hands sink through the layers. You can feel your hands sinking in. And once you feel you've hit that sort of resonance, then you start to apply a very gentle stretch through the tissues. And as the fascia rehydrates and becomes more liquid, it will start to release under your hands. You'll feel it starting to release, and it's never linear. You know, sometimes one hand goes one way and the other hand goes the other way, and you just follow the body, really. So I guess for me, the myofascial release is a little bit less about energy, and it's more about the actual fascial structure, because fascia becomes solidified in the body through our repetitive bracing patterns. You know, when you're anxious that maybe your shoulders come up, or you clench your jaw, or you might hold it in your stomach. Well, if you are repetitively bracing that part of your body, the fascia has no other choice but to solidify. And when it becomes solid, it's incredibly strong. So it creates a huge compressive force through your pain sensitive structures, your joints, your organs, and it just really wreaks havoc in your body. So it's a slightly different way of working, I think, than energy, but yes, there is energy involved as well.
So when we say we're living in the feeling of our thinking is either keeping our body fluid,
yes,
or solid.
Yes, yeah. They would talk about fear is solidified fascia.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, if we're having fearful thinking, it causes our fascia to solidify, and then that wreaks havoc in your body. It's like that, you know, that quote by Bruce Lipton, that every cell in your body is eavesdropping on your thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's very much our thoughts and our thinking cause us to tighten and brace, and that results in pain and lots of other symptoms.
Well, I mean, I know Bruce Lipton, because he's involved with Psych K, as I say. But I know I read his book, which of course is called The Biology of Belief.
Mhm.
And there was a fascinating talk the other day by, his name's going to go straight through my head and out the other side. Meditation. He's huge on meditation. It's gone totally. We all know him. He's everywhere.
Ram Dass or something.
No, not Ram Dass. He's still alive.
No.
But he was talking about the fact, our body has no sense of time. And the fact, as you're describing, we have a thought. If we go into a fearful thought, our body tightens. And nobody ever tells it. It's not happening anymore. Because there is no concept of time beyond the body biologically aging.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I can't believe I can't remember his name.
It's a Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Dispenza, that's it. Of course. I mean, as I say, I know it's there. Of course, and his interesting part was the fact that he was paralyzed,
mm-hmm.
and it was using the power of thought and meditation
mm-hmm.
to self-heal. So just what isn't possible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like even when we think we're relaxed, if you really come out of your head and start doing like a body scan, you will find somewhere that is bracing. I was shocked with how much bracing and tightening I was doing with my body that I was totally unaware of. It just becomes so habitual and so normal that you don't realize you're doing it.
Well, I mean, I notice when I am, the more and more quiet I get, both here and here,
mm-hmm.
it's like there's a kickback. I will often get to a point where I have a sensation of wanting to be sick. And that sensation is what I clock that will pull me out of relaxing further. And I find that fascinating. Because is that the ego that's going, oh no, we don't want you to go that far because you'll get a greater sense of yourself. That is where freedom is. And of course, our egoic mind all the time wants to be in charge. So anything to distract us from actually truly releasing is kind of where it tends to aim for.
Or it could be that, it's awful to say, but it could be that your body just needs to be sick. Like sometimes I've seen people receiving MFR and they go into a place where their body needs to get rid of something and they start retching. It can happen. And it quite often happens with people who have had like big surgeries, who have a lot of I can't get the right word, but anesthetics in their system, and their body's trying to get rid of it. Your body is so wise. It will do what it needs to heal. It will heal itself if we just get out of the way.
Well, I mean, we talk about homeostasis, like, it's always trying to get into homeostasis, like it's, a really simple job. And maybe it possibly is if we didn't eat so much rubbish and believe so much of what goes on here. But it is amazingly intelligent. But of course, it's created by something far greater.
Mm.
But we also seem to spend so much in society these days. So when we say look inside, and I had this conversation recently with someone where we say, you know, go inside, look inside, and yet out inside is here, but it's here.
Mm-hmm.
And yet when we use that saying, you know, look inside, we tend to go, oh, okay, I've got to look in this body. So we become more and more attached, maybe not in the most helpful way, to what this is, because then it starts to become about this body and us.
Yeah, that's the downside, of, if there is one, of, you know, being aware of your listening to your body. Because for example, like I tore a disc in my back about 3 years ago and was in absolute agony. And my physio head just kept clicking in, thinking, I need to fix myself. I'm going to let my patients down. Am I going to need surgery? You know, you just go down like this catastrophizing thought journey. And it just perpetuated my pain. Like I ended up with raging sciatica for 16 weeks because I kept trying to fix myself. And it was one night I was reading a poem or something on Facebook, and I can't even remember the words of it, but I remember going to bed that night and I just thought, you just need to let go. You need to detach from the outcome here. Mm. And the next day I woke up, my sciatica had gone. So, you know, sometimes we can get very caught up in our story. Mm. And in our thoughts and our thinking, and that becomes woven into your fascia. Mm. So trauma, loss, grief, you know, things like that can become woven in, our stories become woven in our fascia, and that's part of how it solidifies. So it's so important to detach from the outcome, let go. And it's not that you're ignoring your symptoms. You know, our symptoms are, as Dr. Bill Pettit talks about, the bumper strips on the road. You know, they're just a sign that you're just going off away from your wisdom and away from your innate health.
I love that, the fact that, well, I love it and I don't, but your words of, you know, it gets woven into our body. So every story, every perception of every moment is a story created, woven, a tapestry in our body. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Mm. New book title. Because you can really, I went for osteopathy recently, and we started because I mentioned you, an MFR. And it was just, I know my experience with the gentle releasing of the body. And I used to, for example, went for a massage and they'd say, do you want it hard or soft? And I'd go, oh, really hard, really, really hard. And I see something totally different about massage now.
Mhm.
And because we do tend to go,
Yeah.
and actually go against what, if you imagine that beautifully woven tapestry.
Yeah. You're trying to force the system, and fascia can never be forced because it's so strong. So you have to go at its pace. And that has taken me years I have to keep pulling myself back. If I feel it releasing, I'm like getting in there, in my linear physio head again. But yeah, it's so much more beautiful if you pull yourself back. You can feel so much more happening beneath your hands.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
Beautiful wisdom. Oh, and can't you just see under people's skin that a woven tapestry? Because that'll be with me for I don't know how long.
I'm going to show you a picture of the fascia, because that will really, I don't know whether this will.
Yeah.
That's what the fascia.
And of course, the interesting thing is when people have surgery, this gets cut through.
Yes.
Without, I guess, even a thought as to how it's a bit like I'm picking some holes in a jumper and then expecting not to get a draft through.
Yeah. And if you have a scar, it's like that pluck in a jumper. It doesn't just affect where the pluck is or where the scar is. It creates a drag through the rest of the body. So a scar can cause lots of issues elsewhere in the body because the fascia is continuous.
So it's a stock underneath our stocking.
Yes.
So where do you imagine yourself going? With how you understand now, has it changed your journey of how you practice?
Yeah, it's definitely made me have a few more conversations with patients who I know are really caught up in their anxious thinking, and they do get it. They do understand that their anxious thinking is causing them to brace and tighten and causing a lot of their pain. But yeah, because I'm quite new to the 3 principles, I'm trying to read and listen to everything, because I would love to be more confident in trying to share it with my patients, really. And as I said, I would love next year to start classes for some of those patients. I still love the hands-on. I love the practicing MFR. But yes, I'm very excited about just being able to incorporate 3 principles and maybe end up sort of coaching a little bit as well. I don't know. But yeah, and I would love to write this book, but I know it's not going to be a quick, easy book. I like, to be honest, my first book, Finding Mystery Within, was pretty easy because I had so much stuff in my journals. But this future book hopefully will take a lot of research, so it'll maybe need me to take a little bit of time off work to really take time out to research and to develop it and to write it. Yeah.
Of course, what's fascinating is maybe everything will just drop on your lap and it'll be absolutely perfect. You'll get it done in half the time and they won't need half the research or the anything. Amazing how hard we can make it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm excited. It's lovely to just have that fresh understanding and to see how it weaves so well with what I'm doing already. It just adds a whole new layer of understanding and hopefully healing for many people.
And of course, what is so fascinating is the fact that this understanding came after you had done, it came in perfect timing on your journey. And isn't that just, everything's so beautifully designed, and we never ever know what's going on in the background, that something needs to occur to let what lives us evolve and learn and move on.
Yeah. That's very much my story, you know, in my book. I just that the timing of discovering MFR was just amazing, because I literally would have had to stop working as a physio. I don't know what I'd have done if I hadn't been able to treat my patients. And yeah.
You learn self-care.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big part of myofascial release, is that we show our patients how to use like a soft ball and a foam roller, you know, to help release their own tight spots, because life still throws stuff at you. So you're still going to brace, you're still going to tighten no matter how much treatment you get. It's good to just learn to listen to your own body and sort of nip it in the bud before it does develop into something more significant.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
I think I had a conversation yesterday with Jacqueline Hollows, and I came away with it with this: we don't review where we're at. Because we still kind of go, you know, oh, we're so easy to sit in our past and go, I don't like this, or I don't like that, or I'm nervous speaking, or whatever it may be, as opposed to going, actually, is that still true? If I review that, where am I now? You spoke so beautifully.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending the time with me. That is fascinating. And it gave me the most beautiful image, actually, of the body, of it being a tapestry.
Yeah.
And of course, on a bigger scale, we talk about we are all part of a tapestry of life.
Yeah.
So the same thing's true on the most tiny microscopic level as is true on a universal level.
Yeah.
And do you see that more and more?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Like I grew up in Northern Ireland during a very religious black and white sort of a time, and definitely discovering MFR has totally blown the lid off that for me. It's just opened my whole belief system, life. It's really changed the way I think and
how you understand life works now. Has it changed how you looked at those troubles that existed in Northern Ireland? About people, about I guess, religion or
Yeah, but
ism.
I guess I was quite fortunate because my parents never, they weren't very, they were very open. They, like my mum and dad ran a grocery store in a border village, and they would have served Catholics and Protestants. And, you know, we were targeted by the IRA because we served the police. And, you know, so I wasn't brought up in a very bigoted household. But yeah, you still grow up seeing it all around you. But yeah, it's just very sad when you look back at the hatred and the bitterness. But I don't feel that I was caught up in that side of it.
It was just what you saw outside.
Yeah.
Again, strange what people make up that's important, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just sad to see it being fed down through the generations. You know, it does get less, that extreme, the extremes of both sides. But, and then again, it's very sad if you look right back through history, you know, to what sort of triggered it, like the treatment of people was horrendous. And, you know, it is a sad part of our history, but we just hope that new generations can not look back to the past, you know, because it just keeps perpetuating it.
Oh, you're back to that same tightness again.
Yeah.
But on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
It's amazing how so easily we fall into fear and misuse it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're being chased by a woolly mammoth, yeah, I still get that. And yet what can be fearful about, I don't know, not having 50 followers on social media or whatever.
Yeah.
We could see how simple so much of it is. And then this would work simpler.
Yeah.
It does seem to be fairly true. The quieter I get up here,
Mm-hmm.
the quieter this is.
Yeah, definitely. It's all connected, mind and body.
I was about to say, you see that all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.